Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. The meeting of the Arizona Board of Regents was called to order Wednesday afternoon before convening an executive session. And today's public meeting is scheduled until 5 p.m. A link to the live stream of the public meeting is available on the board's website under ABOR Live or by going to YouTube and searching for ABOR News. We have a full schedule, so we'll try to keep mindful of the time today. At this point, Regent Dave, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's your first parting gift. So I'd like to welcome, and she's not here. So this is Regent Dave's final board meeting, as I alluded to, and we'll have time later today to acknowledge him for his service on the board, but I just wanted to say right up front, thank you. It has been a pleasure. In addition, this is also Professor Ellis's final meeting as the Arizona Faculty Council representative, and wanted to also say thank you, Kate. We appreciate it very, very much. The 2022 Regents Cup was held on April 28th and 29th at Northern Arizona University. And first, I'd like to thank President Cruz Rivera for hosting the event. It was a wonderful event and welcomed all students, sponsors, judges, and guests to this beautiful campus. And we had actually quite a nice weather, as a matter of fact. I also congratulate the University of Arizona for winning the trophy this year and taking it back from USA. So I'm sure
part of the plot.
And I also wanted to congratulate the individual winners, Claire Mullings and Chase DeBona of ASU, for taking first place in the Oxford debate portion, and Celeste Lugo from the University of Arizona for taking first place in the storytelling section. So those were really, really well done, and I am looking forward to next year's event back at U of A. I'd also like to take this time to recognize Jose Cardenas for his incredible service to ASU and the enterprise. Jose was not able to be with us today, but would still like to take a few minutes to recognize him. So he served as Senior Vice President and General Counsel of Arizona State University since January of 2009. And although he's leaving his role as Senior Vice President and General Counsel, he will continue to serve ASU as a Senior Advisor to President Crow, and will have an opportunity to serve as Special Counsel in the Office of General Counsel. So Jose, thank you for your leadership and your sound advice over the years. We have greatly enjoyed working with you, and we wish you all the best in this next phase of your career. I'd also like to take this opportunity to congratulate Lisa Liu as she steps into her new role as Senior Vice President and General Counsel at ASU. So Lisa's been the Deputy General Counsel for ASU's Office of the General Counsel and has worked with the Office of General Counsel since August of 1993. So we are not giving anything up in the longevity arena. She is, she's very, very talented, and we are looking forward to working with her and congratulate her as well. And then finally, I'd also like to congratulate Kimberly DeMarchi, who, for her role as Deputy Counsel at ASU. Kim, we look forward to working with you as well. So thank you very much. President Cruz Rivera, I'd like to also thank you and your staff for hosting the meeting this time. And again, ordering the nice weather. I'm sure everybody from Phoenix and Tucson is happy to be here. It's 20 degrees cooler and quite lovely. And I'd like to give you the opportunity to say a few remarks.
Thank you, Regent Manson, regents, presidents, colleagues from Arizona State University and the University of Arizona, and guests. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to Northern Arizona University's majestic Flagstaff Mountain campus for this meeting of the Arizona Board of Regents. I also want to extend a special welcome to our newest board members who are here today, Regents Brewster and Goodyear, and incoming student Regent Reese, who I look forward to working with when her term officially begins on July 1st. This is a special occasion for me. Almost exactly 1 year ago, I officially began my tenure as NAU's 17th president. It has been an immensely fulfilling year, and we have accomplished much together. I am deeply appreciative of the support of the Regents, of the collaborative spirit of my colleagues at ASU and U of A, Michael and Bobby, and of the enthusiasm and sense of purpose of our NAU community to advance a bold vision for a boundless future for our university and the people of Arizona. I look forward to the proceedings today, to sharing NAU's strategic roadmap, Elevating Excellence, later this afternoon. And once again, I am so pleased to have you here joining us in this beautiful late spring weather. It's actually 22 degrees cooler than in the valley. In this, yes, high country that I am so privileged to call home. Thank you, and may this be a very productive meeting.
Thank you very much. So moving on, our first item is the call to the audience. If you have any materials for the Regents, please give them to our board secretary, Suzanne Templin, sitting at the table to my right, and she will distribute them to us. Pursuant to board policy, time has been set aside for the call to the audience, and this is an opportunity for individuals to address the entire board in public, to express their views or concerns regarding matters of board governance. The board reserves the right to limit the number of presenters on any one topic. Regents do not respond to comments made during the call to the audience. However, we do hear your remarks, and we ask that the appropriate person follow up and provide us with information on any issues that are raised. When you are called to speak, please proceed to the lectern. To keep us on schedule, each speaker has no more than 3 minutes. And as a courtesy to each speaker, Suzanne will hold up a sign signaling how much time the speaker has remaining. And at the end of your 3 minutes, we ask that you conclude your remarks. Suzanne, can you call our first call to the public?
Thank you, Chair. Kylie Netschi, followed by Haley Creighton.
Regents, presidents, thank you so much for your time today. My name is Kyle Nitschke, and I'm the organizing director with the Arizona Students Association. The Arizona Students Association has been around for over 40 years, advocating for student interests in the state. We've registered tens of thousands of students and new voters and run paid internship programs at all of our public universities each semester, where we teach students how to advocate, organize, and become leaders. The Students Association would like to leave a comment today to commend the work that Dr. Cruz Rivera has done here at a short time at NAU and request the board and state align with our NAU and Flagstaff values around college affordability and the climate. At NAU in the past, we've been extremely committed to keeping tuition affordable and letting students know what they would be paying for during their time here. During President Hager's time at NAU, we saw the introduction of the Pledge program, locking in tuition rates for incoming students for 4 years, a tradition that we've remained accountable to. The budget cuts from our state legislature to higher education during the years following the recession has really crippled the affordability of our public universities. Tuition's nearly doubled for our Arizona resident undergraduate students since 2008, and NAU has become out of reach for many of our Arizona families. As we're recovering from massive cuts to higher education funding from the state over this last decade and a half, Dr. Cruz Rivera and NAU are showing their commitment to making college affordable and accessible to all students. With the announcement of the Access to Excellence program, Dr. Cruz Rivera announced, quote, if you're an Arizona resident and live in a household where your family income is at or below $65,000 per year, which is the current median in the state, you have the opportunity to come to NAU tuition free. The Access to Excellence program will fuel economic and social mobility in our state and ultimately allow more of our high school graduates to pursue higher education. The Arizona Students Association requested the board to help make this a reality at all of our public universities and work towards a future where Arizona high school graduates can attend public university tuition free. During President Hager's reign, he also committed NAU to carbon neutrality by 2020. We started to make some progress, but with the massive budget cuts after the recession and our prior administrations not prioritizing that commitment, we didn't complete our goal. But we didn't fail. The Green Fund and sustainability is part of a culture here at NAU for our students, and sustainability and doing what is necessary to protect our climate is a core value that I've seen from my Flagstaff community since I've lived here. Due to an overwhelming amount of support from the Flagstaff community in 2019, our city council passed the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan and committed the city to carbon neutrality by 2030. Wonderfully, Dr. Cruz Rivera recently committed NAU to carbon neutrality by 2030 as well. But this time, not hitting that goal will be a failure. That being said, we need the resources and support to make that goal a reality. The brand new $47 million Athlete High Performance Center is a commitment to NAU's Flagstaff Olympic class athletes. We're a leader for athletic performance. We attract the best athletes from all over the state, country, and world to train here in our little mountain town. And we need to see that similar commitment to making NAU and Flagstaff a leader in creating a carbon neutral future. Thank you so much for your time.
Haley Creighton, followed by Kelly Like.
Hello, thank you so much for your time. My name is Haley Creighton. I'm a recent NAU graduate and a Flagstaff resident. I'm also a member of the Arizona Students Association, a group committed to promoting student power and, among other things, addressing the climate crisis. I am here to show that the Arizona Students Association, NAU students, as well as the greater Flagstaff community, support strong climate action. Reaching carbon neutrality by 2030 must be a priority across the entire state, and to do that, we need support and funding from BoardWebcast. I ask that you consider these needs and help fight for climate action in the future. Thank you so much.
Kelly Like, followed by Brendan Trachsel.
You can hear me okay? Oh yeah, quite well. Hi there. First of all, thank you for having me and allowing us to speak at this public hearing. My name is Kelly Likey, and I am a doctoral candidate at the University of Arizona. I am working toward my PhD in rhetoric, writing, and the teaching of English. And I'm also an instructor in the English department. I have over 9 years of experience teaching high school, middle school, and now higher ed. In light of the proposed laws like SB 1213 and SB 1211, I'd like to urge the Board of Regents to publicly support academic freedom for instructors and explicitly oppose bills that infringe on a teacher's ability to create culturally responsive and timely learning experiences across K-12 and university. Many of these instructors were trained in our Arizona public universities, and I would like to see the Board of Regents acknowledge the skills and expertise of teachers to make curricular decisions without fear of surveillance. Thank you.
Our final speaker, Brendan Trachsel.
Good afternoon, Regents. My name is Brendan Trachsel, NAU's undergraduate student body president, speaking on behalf of the Associated Students of NAU. I thank the Regents, President Cruz Rivera, and any other guests for allowing me to speak today. I believe that NAU 2025, Elevating Excellence, the new NAU charter, and President Cruz Rivera's leadership is truly a turning point to this university. When I talk to students, faculty, and staff, they are incredibly optimistic for what is to come. ASNAU will use this optimism as fuel to advocate for an elevated university and educational environment for students at NAU and all across Arizona. I'm grateful that in my initial meetings with NAU's administration, they have been incredibly supportive of increasing transparency for how mandatory fees are used. With current conditions demanding high tuition and fees, it is imperative that students know where their dollars are going. This is the first step in creating a vital culture of transparency and accountability. Transparency leads to trust, and trust is the foundation for a prosperous campus community and college experience. NAU goes above and beyond in its efforts to make higher education attainable, but the cost of housing in Flagstaff diminishes the opportunities the university offers. NAU is uniquely positioned as a large community stakeholder, making up nearly a third of the total Flagstaff population, to take action towards this issue. We need to begin serious discussions about increasing affordable on-campus housing for students to increase retention and build a greater, more cohesive campus community. Aside from these large-scale advocacy efforts, I'm ecstatic to share that our menstrual equity initiative, led by ASNAU's own menstrual equity committee, is quickly expanding across campus thanks to the support of the university. ASNAU will continue its advocacy in ensuring student needs are met. This includes food security, emergency support, preventing wage stagnation, re-implementing tiered student compensation, investment into the climate action plan, and more. Lowering the cost of tuition, fees, and housing cannot be achieved without increased state support for universities. ASNAU will continue advocating for increased state funding and looks forward to working with the university and the Regents to improve the lives and experiences of students at NAU. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Manson.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, and that is items include 10 through 19. Does anybody have any conflicts to declare on items 10 through 19 scheduled for consent? Okay, seeing none. I move that the board approve items 10 through 19 as listed in the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion does carry. Our next item is the executive director report from Executive Director John Arnold, and the floor is yours.
I'm gonna do it from here so I can see everybody.
Absolutely.
Let's see.
This-
Yeah.
Ask President Robbins, he knows the secret.
You just said, I saw
There
that.
you go. There you go.
Okay. Thank you. So for the last few years, at the June board meeting, I've taken the opportunity to chat with the board a little bit about what we've done last year and where we're going next year. This year, I decided to incorporate a presentation that I'd asked Jim Rounds to provide to the board. He apologizes he was not available today in a conflict. I think he's on a beach somewhere staring at the surf, but he offered to give it up, but I said we could handle it without it. But just to go over a handful of things. So looking back on the last year, what did we do? And I went back and looked at this presentation from a year ago and what did we say we were going to do? So what was on that list was the value proposition, continuing to advocate for higher education and making the case of the value of higher education. And on that front, we have partnered with Rounds Economic Group, and he's done a number of studies to again provide evidence of the value both of individual degrees and what the universities are providing. He does a long-term economic analysis of the NEI projects that we request and shows the return on the state both from tax revenue and general economic activity. Legislative relationships, we've brought Paige Gonzalez on this year, and we've very pleased with her efforts and continue to try to develop our relationships with the legislature. FAFSA, this year we became the FAFSA designated entity. Arizona is one of the bottom 10 states in terms of the percentage of our students that complete a FAFSA. So we went through really an analysis year. We only became that entity in January, so we really missed this FAFSA cycle. It really runs from October through about February into April, but we have put together a plan for next year, and I've told Chad if we don't increase FAFSA completion by 10%, that he's I use the term fired, but that might be a little drastic, but we do have a number of initiatives on that front that believe we can successfully increase that program. Talk a little bit more about what we're going to do there in a minute. General education. We continue our general education reform. I had a good conversation with Michael, and I cannot pronounce his last name, Polyakov. He's the president of the American Council of Trustees and Alumni. He was here for the Regents Cup and told me they've reviewed our general education policy and believe it's the best in the country. This year, we reviewed and approved the framework for all 3 general education programs. In addition, the universities assess student progress on quantitative analysis, math, and the board will receive a report on that assessment in September. So really, the next step is to put into place assessments against our general education programs to make sure our students are getting the outcomes we want to. Math was the first one. We did that this year, and we'll see the results of that coming up. Goals and metrics. We adopted institutional metrics and targets for ASU and the University of Arizona. we've worked on and continue to develop our online metrics and targets. And I think this fall we will finalize the NNU individual metrics and targets. So a lot of work on that front. Affiliates, we passed the new affiliates policy this year to look at the relationships and provide more additional oversight. Online education, I touched on that with goals and metrics, but continue to have those conversations as online education became a bigger and bigger part of our enterprise. Risk management, this really came out of the Auditor General reports. We launched our risk management reviews this year and now have had an overview with each of the 3 universities and look forward to working with Regent Herbold on how that manifests next year as we continue to look at the risk in our enterprise. Capital process, we have reformed our capital process this year, just passed that new policy at our last board meeting. And then TRIF, under the guidance of Regent Duval, we restructured how we allocate TRIF dollars and launched our new Regents TRIF grants to, I think, a great deal of success. So that was an exciting venture this year. In addition to what we said we were going to do, we did a whole bunch of other stuff, which is normal for us. So first, we welcomed 5 new regents this year. So welcome. Never want to do that again. We launched the Arizona Promise Program, and I know I've spoken about this in the past, but I really think this is one of those seminal moments in the history of the state. We have really our first comprehensive statewide financial aid program. It's small right now, but it really lays the foundation of something we can build upon and really promote across the state to continue to increase attainment. The attainment agenda, the board allocated $5 million towards improving attainment. We've partnered with the universities on that front and have a number of projects going on that effort. I now have a new semi-weekly meeting bi-weekly meeting on attainment that is on my calendar. So that's lots of stuff going on that front. I hope to see some fruits of that here in the near term. Health sciences, we launched 2 major health sciences projects that I've talked with the board about in length and hope to see the results of those coming towards the end of the summer. We renamed the Phoenix Biosciences Corps and have done a lot of work on that front. We went through a presidential transition with President Cruz Rivera, welcome, and I think, again, very successfully. We incorporated the Commission for Post-Secondary Ed into the Board of Regents. That happened on January 1st this year. So we brought their employees, their programs, their records, which were voluminous, into our offices. Still working through some of the logistical issues around that consolidation. In fact, when had to pass a trailer bill to clean up some of that, how that was going to come over, and that bill won't become effective until the general effective date, which we don't know what the general effective date is. And so until that happens, that really won't be completely done. And then finally, we launched a number of, we did some work around mental health initiatives. So I'll talk about just a second. Just on the mental health front, a national survey of college students found that nearly 40% of college students experience depression. 1 in 3 reported anxiety. 1 in 7 said they considered suicide last year. A survey of directors of college counseling centers in 2020 said 90% reported demand for their services have gone up over the prior year. I know each of our presidents would say this is one of the core issues on our campuses, and demand for mental health services continues to rise. To that end, one thing we did this year is partner with the 3 universities to develop some mental health advocacy videos that are being promoted. They'll be launched fully on social media this fall. But we have started leaking some of those out. The first one that went out was a University of Arizona softball player that talked about her experience with mental health, Ali Skaggs, and that video, which went out about 3 weeks ago, has received thousands of views already, thousands. The next one that's going to go out, I was going to play for you. It's also a University of Arizona video, again, we did one of these we did a few of these with each of the universities. This is the University of Arizona football player Trevor Mason, sorry. I don't know how to make it start.
I think people will be shocked at how, like, if you let somebody know you're dealing with someone with mental health, they'll help you. I think people be shocked, like with athletes when they come out in the media and stuff like that. I've been dealing with since I was 7. And my mom knew like something wasn't right. So she took me to the doctor, you know what I'm saying? They diagnosed me with a lot of stuff, bipolar, ADHD, depression, anxiety. I didn't like to tell people because people feel sorry for you, and that's not what I want. That's not what, I don't want nobody to feel sorry for me. Sometimes I did miss practice because my head wasn't there, you know what I'm saying? I started opening up to my therapist and psychiatrist, started telling them everything I usually wouldn't tell them, and it actually makes me feel good because, therapists, they just listen. They ask a few questions, they just listen. I feel like if I ain't found the support system I had now, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be on my way to the NFL. I wouldn't have played here. I would have been somewhere else. Go talk to people, man. Like, you'll never know if you don't try. Like, so just go try to talk to people. I don't care if it's your mom, your aunt, your brother, sister. Just go try to talk to people.
And so those will go out fully this fall, every little bit. Getting into gym rounds. So this spring, the Arizona Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Phoenix Chamber, the Northern Arizona Leadership Alliance, and SALC came together and sponsored a report that the gym rounds put together on Arizona's economy and workforce development. Well, the first thing the report notes is that Arizona's economy is doing very, very well. Over the last few years, so currently we're now at top 5 manufacturing attractiveness. 28 in 2015, moved up to number 5 in 2021. Top 10 for business competitiveness, top 10 for business climate, number 1 most competitive state in the mountain region, top 4 for best state in business, number 1 in economic performance over the last decade, et cetera, et cetera. Things are going well. The report went through a number of economic measures for employment growth. Over the last 20 years, Arizona's employment growth has been 3 times the national rate. Our annual GDP growth, about 16% above the national rate. Population growth, 2.5 times the national rate. In 2021, personal income growth, Arizona was 10.3%, the US was 6.5%. Current unemployment rate, 3.2% versus the US at 3.6%. So there's a lot of good news in the Arizona economy. Jim's report, however, notes that with certain what he called economic quality measures, that we continue to trail the national economy. Per capita GSP, we're about 79% of the US average. Per capita personal income, 81% of the US average, and average wage about 89%, and that's average wage that's been adjusted for cost of living, about 89% of the US average. And each of these percentages are lower today than they were in 2001. If I put this chart together, this goes back to 2001. The red line is per capita GSP, the blue line per capita personal income, and then the average wage is that top gray line with the dotted lines of trends versus 100%, which is the national average. So in many ways, despite their growth, so in growth statistics, Arizona does very well on some of these per capita, what Jim labeled quality measures, we continue to degrade versus the national economy. Moving back to talking about population, that is one of the key strengths of Arizona. Is we continue to grow very, very quickly, certainly well in excess of the US average. These are the projections that come out of the Arizona Office for Economic Opportunity. They're supposed to update again at the end of this calendar year, but you'll note that by 2030, we're supposed to add another 800,000 people into the state of Arizona. Over the next 10 years, we'll hit another 1 million people in the state of Arizona. And by 2040, which all of a sudden doesn't seem that far away, we're looking at another 1.7 to 1.8 million people in the state of Arizona. So what does that really mean, all of this growth? Well, that certainly translates into jobs. So Jim looked at what is the Arizona employment compositions 2010, 2020, and then looking out to 2030, where are we adding jobs? And in the two biggest areas that you can see, professional and business services and in healthcare. So just look, and then the report drills down into each of these different areas on where we're adding jobs. But professional and business services, what are some of the key jobs in those areas? Veterinarians, paralegals, computer network architects, environmental engineers, computer programmers, all high wage, good jobs. You can see that they all require post-high school education, and the 4 out of the 5 jobs that he highlighted in the report require a bachelor's degree or higher. In fact, breaking down the full sector, about 32% of the jobs in professional and business services where Arizona is projected to add the most jobs require a bachelor's degree. And another 1% to 2% require a graduate degree. So around 34% of all the jobs in the sector will require a bachelor's degree or higher. And that really speaks to where Arizona is going as an overall economy. In 2010, about 16% of the jobs in the Arizona's economy required a bachelor's degree or higher. By 2020, so now we're around 26%. The forecast is by 2030, it'll be 27.5%. And again, going back, about 18 to 19% of our students end up with a 4-year degree or higher. So we have that continued disconnect between what our economy is going to demand and what we're producing. So Jim's made this calculation. He said, looking over the next 30 years, or the next 10 years, this total employment in the state is 2.8 million people. Demand for bachelor's degrees. So he went through a calculation where he looked at retirees, people who were leaving the state, separated from the state, in migration into the state, and calculated that in our current economic conditions, we need about 68,000 degrees entering our economy every single year. Between our 3 institutions and private institutions, we're producing about 22,500 degrees for the Arizona economy. We certainly graduate more people than that. But he was looking at who stays in Arizona and enters into our workforce. So we're adding about 22,500 degrees. And that includes in-migration into the state. 22,000. In-migration into the state, about 19,000 degrees every year, which leaves us a shortage of 26,000 degrees every single year over the next decade. I think we're already feeling that in our workforce environment, certainly in the professional sectors, in the healthcare sector, the education sectors. We have a shortage of degrees. And this is not Jim's report, but the Partnership for Workforce and Innovation did an analysis of job postings in Maricopa County. And looked at what was the employability skill, what were the top employability skills they were looking for. Number 1 was verbal and written communications. See, number 2, cooperative team player, customer service, organization, problem solver. The majority of which are soft skills related with higher education. Go down about 8 and you get into can lift 50 pounds. And that kind of stuff showed up, but I didn't go that far. Area development, the 35th annual corporate survey and site selection, #1 issue, availability of skilled labor. So really the gist of this report is that we're in an arms race with the states around us for skilled labor, and specifically for bachelor's degrees and higher. And so what is our state doing about to compete in this workforce arms race? So this is Arizona higher education investment as a percent of the national average going back to 2020. This is a survey done. It's called the Grapevine Survey. It's Illinois State puts this out. So in 2020, Arizona's support for higher education was about 82% of the national average. Today, we are at 50% of the national average. So that, and we rank 49th out of the 50 states, and our per capita support gets 50% of the national average, 1/2 of the average. And my fear is we're going to fall further behind. We just selected a few states, and this is what they did this year. So this spring, Utah invested 16.8%, increased their higher education budgets by that much. Texas 5%, but they're on a biannual budgeting process, and so that was the last piece of a 24% increase over the last 4 years. Colorado's up, Missouri's up, Pennsylvania's up 13%, Tennessee is up 13%. We can look at other states if you'd like to. Just in context, the request that the Board of Regents put in would have represented about a 19% increase over our current budgets. But again, we're half of the national average, so 19% is a little bit. So where Arizona ranks, so that's the Jim Round stuff. Typically, we do a presentation this time where we compare some metrics on Arizona's universities, just all together, not in one individual university, versus how universities are performing in the other states. So we look at WICHE Plus. WICHE is the Western exchange with all the Western states, and we add a couple of other states in there. So there's 19 states in there, and then we can look at all 50 states. But state support per capita, 19 of those were 19th of the 19 states, 49th nationally. Total enrollment per capita. But again, a lot of our enrollment are non-residents. It's not our own students. We're 12th, 28th nationally. Enrollment growth, #1. And total degrees per capita, we're 8th in that group, 18th nationally. So we produce degrees at a highly efficient rate. Bachelor degree growth, #1, the WICHE states. #2 this year, nationally, Indiana beat us by just a smidgen. Freshman retention rates, 4th in the WICHE group, 12th nationally. We do very, very well compared to all other states in the freshman retention. Freshman retention rate difference. This is how much our freshman retention rates have improved over the last 5 years. So 11th, 22nd, we're coming from a place where we're already better than most other states. 6-year graduation rates, you can see there. And differentiation difference, and then the research and development per capita, 13th and 34th. Look ahead. So what's coming for this next year? #1, we're only going to welcome 1 new region this upcoming year. So everybody look around, nod, agree. It'll be the student region. Goodbye, Nikhil. We'll welcome 1 new student region this year, and that's it. Looking at tuition reform this upcoming year. As I mentioned, we'll have the health sciences reports coming this fall, and I anticipate that we'll do a lot of work based on those reports. We're looking at transition of a new governor starting in January. That's always an exciting time, a once in a 8-year typically opportunity that we'll want to take full advantage of. TRIF 3.0. So we have more money in TRIF that we need to allocate, and we'll be working with the presidents and the board to figure out the best way to put that money to use for the state. FAFSA improvements. So two things we're working on right now are on FAFSA. One, Mesa ran a very successful pilot project where they hired senior students, so 12th graders, as a near peer counselor for the students in their school. So these are very successful students. They gave them a small stipend, and then they worked with the students in their class to complete their FAFSAs, and they saw their FAFSA completion rate go up about 30% in those schools that did that. And so we had, I apologize, I can't remember, we're funding 20 additional high schools across the state. We have tried to select high schools that have a very high level of free and reduced lunch, so we get the bang for the buck. We want the students. We're going to qualify for federal funding to fill out these FAFSA forms. And we very quickly had applicants for all 20 slots. I think we could add another 50 schools into this program. We're going to take it. There's a little bit of an administrative work around this, so we're going to take it one step at a time. The other thing we're doing on FAFSA, we now get to house FAFSA data, which is really exciting. So the federal government will dump to the state all the students that have completed a FAFSA. And they'll also dump all the students who have started a FAFSA. They'll tell you how far they've gone. They'll tell you if there's errors in their FAFSA. And so we have that data. The Commission for Post-Secondary Ed had entered into agreements with school districts. So a school district could go in and upload their senior class. And then we could send, and then they could go in and match and see which of their senior class has completed a FAFSA. But what we found is that system was not being heavily utilized. So we're reversing that process. Signing agreements with high schools. They'll upload their student body, and then we will push reports out to those high schools counselors that says, here are your students who have not started FAFSA. Here are the ones who have started but have not completed. Here are the ones that have an error in their FAFSA. We're still working through the counselors at this time. I met with another state, Alabama, who has taken the next step where they're communicating directly with the students, where they've gathered the emails for every single high school senior and are emailing directly. And they went from, I think, 38th up to 8th in FAFSA completions last year as they implemented that direct communication process. We're going to start with these two efforts. More difficult for us to get direct contact information for students at this time. But excited about where this is going. Online metrics, we're going to finish online metrics this upcoming year. So excited. NAU metrics, and then we'll be done with metrics for a while until you decide to change them. Attainment next steps. There's a lot going on that front, and we're going to continue to partner with the universities. They're doing a lot of work on that front as well. One thing we've done is commissioned a study where we're just doing a literature review of all the stuff that's been done that says what works to move students into a high school or into a college going process. The other effort we have, we hired OH to do a survey of students, parents, and recent high school graduates that did not go to college to really try to better understand what their motivations are, what's driving a high school student to either decide to go to college or not. What did these recent graduates, what was their experience? Why did they not go to college? And how are parents looking at college today and post-high school education? We should get the results of that survey back this month, and hopefully that will inform some of the work we can do over the next year. And then general education assessments, as I mentioned, that's really our next step in the general education process as we move to implement the policy onto the ground and then make sure the students are getting the outcomes that we expect them to. And then always I like to close with rankings. We ask the universities which ones they want to highlight, and as always, our universities are just amazing institutions. That's Arizona is so fortunate to have these three institutions here. It's really exciting, the work we're doing, but with the growth, the continued growth that's coming to the state over the next decade, 2 decades, we have a lot of work to do. We know our market is underrepresented in terms of higher education. So there's much more we need to do to provide access and the workforce that the state needs as we move forward. That, Madam Chair, I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Reading for check.
Madam Chair, I just want to commend the universities and the A4 team. That last slide, if we can go back to it briefly, not a thank you slide, previous slide, that is really tremendous and exciting. And I'm looking forward to you wrapping up your metrics so we can really capture this.
The single digit numbers there are pretty darn good.
No, just number one. Those are good numbers.
President.
President.
I just wanted to make a comment. If you could go all the way back, John, to the slide on where we're at the 50th percentile. And so that's true. And as we've spoken in other Regents discussions, that's a powerfully important number. But it's also the case that we build institutions that don't operate in the same ways as the other institutions operate around the country. And so we need to find a nomenclature that says we're operating universities, as enterprise type entities, and we need investment in the students to be able to attend these universities, which is a little bit different than the way the other states invest in the university. So it's a nomenclature that we have to come up with at some point. This number is, unbelievably low, hurts us in everything that we do. And I think the other thing that I would say to the Regents relative to this slide is, if we had that number and we operated in the modality that we operate in now, we would be outperforming everyone in almost everything. And so there is an opportunity with a relatively modest investment to take these universities which are performing well and move them to the point where they outperform everyone else, because we have abandoned some of the constraints of the other universities around the country in terms of how they operate, because they became overly reliant on that black line, the 100% line, and then became overly bureaucratic and then underperformed in a lot of ways. And so it's how do we express all of that? I think it's really the fantastic thing.
I guess the translation is the fact that 50% turns into top 10 performance indicators at all three of our universities is significant.
Yeah, so one way to approach this may be to at some point take on the notion of what are other states investing in their students for families from the taxpayers' dollars, not what are they investing in the universities. What are they investing in the people themselves?
Thank you. All right, no further comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item of business is the legislative update, and I'd like to ask Paige Gonzalez to discuss the legislative affairs portion of the agenda.
Hard to follow John. Hello, Chair Manson, Regents, University Presidents. Thanks for having me this afternoon. It seems like when I'm here, we should be further along in this process every time. Maybe next time I see you, we'll wrap things up. Today is the 151st day of legislative session. And these days aren't filled with a lot of floor action or bill movement, because work is going on the budget and there are ongoing discussions about that. Because of that, I'm just going to be very brief on the bill update. You'll see a document that has 3 bills that I'll cover. And these are bills out of the other list that you took a position on. So I just wanted to give you a status on that. And also know that this is the time of year where we're on high alert for bills that we once thought were gone that might be resurrected. So that's another complicating factor as the session is going longer. So the first bill I wanted to cover with you status-wise is just Senate Bill 1324. You're familiar, this is the Smart and Safe Fund Distribution Bill. We were able to add an amendment in the Senate to include university police departments as authorized recipients for the public safety portion of this fund. However, sadly to report, this failed in the House on third reading this week because it required a supermajority vote and 7 members were absent. So thank goodness it will be reconsidered. There was a motion for reconsideration. So we have 2 weeks to do that, and they will reconsider it, put on an agenda when those members come back, because if they would have been there, it would have passed, it would have had the supermajority. This next bill is our continuation bill, 1368. This is the 5-year compromise that was reached between the House and Senate. So this bill is parked in House rules along with a lot of other bills. It's not just us. Because budget negotiations are continuing, and we've been assured by House leadership that this bill and all the others will be, open the door when the budget is done, and they will all be out for consideration. So that's the status of that. That's the next step. And then lastly is 2473. This is the bill that prohibits the state and its political subdivisions from entering into contracts or investment policies with companies that discriminate against firearms entities. So there's a lot of opposition to this bill. It has not made it to the floor for consideration in the Senate. There's a lot of members that don't want to be put in a position to vote on this bill. But rumors abound that there's amendments coming forth that may carve out financial institutions or make the political subdivision language stronger. But no one is taking credit for that amendment, so we really haven't seen it, so it's still not moving. We are on high alert for that bill. So those are the 3 bills I just wanted to provide you an update on. And then also, the last time I was before you, we discussed 2 bills of all the racial discrimination, public education, otherwise known as critical race theory bills that were out there. The one that is left now is 1412. So this bill started off on K-12 instruction, but it was amended on the House floor now to include a prohibition of teaching certain concepts in teacher prep programs. So this is different than other prior bills that we've seen on this matter, this amendment, because it is allowing the student or the student's parent to file a complaint and direct the appropriate governing board, which in this case would be a board or a community college district board, to schedule a hearing to determine if there was a violation and then to resolve that violation within 30 days. So your government affairs team has been able to speak with members in the Senate to express concerns about that part of the amendment, utilizing one of ABOR's policy positions that already exists. And also FIRE opposes viewpoint-based prohibition on instruction in higher ed overall. And so they've been talking to senators about their concerns. So there is language forthcoming that may take higher ed out completely out of this bill and remove that part of the amendment. I will keep you updated on that. So on that note, I'll transition to budget unless you want to talk about any of those. Okay. So small group dialogue began this week, and the Capitol community is often confused because you hear, well, the bipartisan's going on in the House, no, it's the Senate, no, things blew up. So that's been going on for a couple of weeks. And so they may just need to start all over depending on the feedback they're getting now that the members are getting fully briefed on what their proposal is. So in this first version, I would say that there's a ways to go. Spreadsheets became available Monday night, and we were able to see the negotiating themes based on what we saw in those spreadsheets. And I don't have a clean copy because it was never officially released, but I'm happy to discuss details with you later and show that to you. And I'll specifically address just the higher ed portions of that spreadsheet. So there's ongoing funding of $39.5 million, which includes Promise, GI spouse tuition waivers, Freedom Schools, and veterinary medicine. NEI, according to those spreadsheets, was last year, and that it is one time at 46 million. But again, there's some veterinary medicine money and natural resource policy center money that we could consider NEI. So we could say that number is for like 52. And there's also capital expenses that are at the end of the spreadsheet for capital projects, but they're not system-wide. I also mentioned in a previous update to you that there was legislative interest for an on-farm irrigation efficiency grant program that's ARPA money. So that's listed in there as a pass-through, but it's federal money. And then again, no details are available on any of these, but I know you're all interested in the nursing program dollars. So there's accelerated nursing money in there at 44 million for public institutions, and then 6 million to Creighton. And then 3 years of a nursing education pilot program at 15 million. State employee pay raises are listed at 10%, but we're trying to find out if that includes university employees. And lastly, HIDF and pension debt payoff are also listed, and those are two good items for the system in general. So in conclusion, again, there's a ways to go on this budget to garner all the votes that they would need. And just know that we will continue to advocate for ongoing NEI funding, more promise, and for the UMA partnership with AWC, because unfortunately that did not make it into this first version of spreadsheets that we saw. So I'm happy to provide more detail later or answer questions now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paige. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Thank you. I will say that I was concerned about the budget as it came out in the first iteration as it relates to higher education funding. So I'm hoping that there's, as you said, space to move and places to go.
I think there is, Chair. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Paige.
Yeah, one more question.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You didn't mention ATA in your last list.
Oh, that is correct. That is not on the first iteration either. That the Teachers Academy is not. So we are talking to the governor's office about that. As we have been actually as putting that as a part of their ask as well. So yes, you're right. ATA needs to be in there.
Thanks, Paige.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Paige. Appreciate it. Next, the board's going to receive an update from Director Arnold regarding the federal requirement for an online campus safety survey tool. John?
Thank you. I'm supposed to read this document.
Okay.
So, in March, the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act was signed by the President. Section 1507 of this reauthorization requires that the Secretary of Education develop a standard survey tool regarding post-secondary student experiences with violence and sexual assault. Prior to that, Senator Mesnard had sponsored a bill this session that would have established a task force to create and implement such a survey. And we appreciate his efforts very much and his passion for this issue. However, his bill did not move forward and was really replaced by the federal action. However, he continues to be very interested in it and would like to see a joint university approach to this issue. To that end, our office will coordinate a working group as the Secretary of Education moves forward with the survey tool to review the requirements of the federal legislation and to develop a framework for our response to the survey. That I'm happy to provide additional information as we move forward in that process.
Any questions or comments from the board on that topic? Thank you, John. We're now going to move on to the business of the Finance, Capital, and Resources Committee. We are going to table the ABOR component of the item 5 fiscal year 2023 annual budgets for ASU, NAU, and University of Arizona and the board system office until after the board retreat, but we will continue to move forward with the university specific budgets. As the committee chair, Regent Mata will introduce items 4 through 6.
Thank you, Chair Manson. The Finance, Capital, and Resources Committee agenda includes items 4 through 6, as well as items 17 and 18, which were approved on the consent agenda earlier today. For item number 4, I will give a report on the Finance, Capital, and Resources Committee meeting that was held on May 26th. At this meeting, the committee discussed the following two items, which were already voted on as part of today's consent agenda. Number one, second reading of proposed revisions to capital policies. Capital policies have been consolidated and streamlined to make the capital development process easier to understand. Since third reading, the two significant changes are: one, adding back sovereignty language to specify that ABOR and university properties are not places of unrestricted public access. And number two, revising university property acquisitions authority to allow universities to purchase property within the state of Arizona, provided the purchase price is less than or equal to $1 million. The second item was NAU ground lease, which Northern Arizona University requested approval to enter into a ground lease with Mountain Line as intergovernmental public transportation authority for the development of a commercial driver's license test course that NAU will also be able to use. The committee also reviewed and discussed the proposed fiscal year 2023 university and ABOR office budgets. This item is next on the agenda. And item number 5, which is an action item for approval of fiscal year 2023 budgets. As the Chair Manson said, we will table the ABOR office budget until a later meeting and only consider action on the university budgets. We will start with ASU, followed by NAU, and then U of A. I would note that these budgets currently have placeholders for the state appropriations. The motion to approve the budgets will allow for adjustment to reflect funding from the final state budget for fiscal year 2023. I will ask President Crow to provide the remarks, or
I'll start, and then Dr. Olson can come up to the hot seat. So thank you, Regent Mata. So let me just reiterate for the regents that this is a process by which basically this board approves the scale with which the institution is moving forward. Our revenue has not been achieved yet. Our enrollment hasn't been achieved, but our budget design is reflective of our best estimates, our best guesses, our informed guesses of where we're going, and we're planning on these budgets for how we're moving forward. I'll also reiterate before turning it to Morgan that the university operates in two modalities: the enterprise modality, which think of that as our holding entities and support units that are also generating revenue, and then the university itself, which is a series of academic units and other activities within the institution. So there's two different numbers that we're working from, that we look at all of it, and it's all under our control and all under your jurisdiction by oversight. Morgan can walk you through very quickly. I don't know how much time we want to spend on this, but through the details.
5 minutes.
5 minutes, all right. Top line summary.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I think I can actually do it more quickly than that. Most of you were there at the committee meeting when we went over each of the institutions' operating budget proposals in some detail. I would just highlight a couple of things. As the board knows, we are heavily dependent on revenue that we can generate ourselves. And the biggest piece of that, over 60%, is tuition and fees revenue. We have been able to hold the sticker price and in fact the net price that our students pay to relatively small increases, less than 3% annually over the last 11 years, which we feel very good about. And I think you see in our enrollment data, both the scale of our enrollment and the makeup of our enrollment, the diversity of our enrollment economically and in other ways, that we've been successful in maintaining access and affordability. Always more to do there. It's great to see the state starting to make some promise investment, to help with that effort. But we want to continue on that track. We have a budget that's based on about a 3.8% increase in enrollment for next year. The breakdown on that is fairly significant growth in non-resident students and also in our digital immersion or online students. And so, it'll be incumbent on us to make sure that we that we hit those numbers. We're still, as Paige just indicated a few minutes ago, waiting to see what happens in terms of the state investment deliberations there. And we've based the budget that you have upon the governor's executive recommendation. It would be nice if there were some upside from that. We know that we have a number of things that we will be addressing within this budget. There are also some things that if there were a little bit of additional resource available, we would like to make some further investment in. Like many, we're concerned about the current environment for talent, recruiting and retaining our talent and making sure that we can reward people appropriately with respect to compensation and other aspects of their relationship. The university has been an employer of choice for a long period of time, and we believe it's important to continue to ensure that it remains that way. And so that's something that we'll be watching. But that's kind of the highlights. And if there are questions that the board has, I'd be happy to address them, or of course, President Kroll.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Hear none. Thank you so much, Morgan.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we have President Cruz Rivera. Do you want to also join? Okay, thank you. To present the remarks for NAU.
So thank you, Chair Mata. So as we all know, over the last year, NAU has produced a bold agenda for the future. It's articulated in our new strategic roadmap, which we will be reviewing later this afternoon. An important part of that strategic roadmap is ensuring that we prioritize the way that we sustain our operations well into the future. Sustainable stewardship of resources is a particular priority area in that plan. A few highlights that I will make regarding our fiscal year 23 budget, which we had an opportunity to review at the last committee meeting. We project a net position increase for fiscal year 23. Our financial liquidity is strong. We're investing in our people, similar to the comments that were just made around ASU. We understand that we're in a very competitive market, and so we want to make sure that we are attracting and retaining top talent to advance our important agenda moving forward. And we are, of course, trying to figure out how to do all of this in a way that remains affordable for our students and their families, in the way that we package our financial aid and work with our tuition projections. We feel confident about the next year, of course, as everybody else. We're very hopeful that the state investments will materialize. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Bjorn Flugstad, our CFO, can also weigh in if there are any questions.
Thank you, President Cruz Rivera. Bjorn, do you have any other remarks to say?
Thanks, Jamada. I think President Cruz Rivera outlined very well the highlights that we went over at the committee meeting, just in terms of NAU's position and budget for this upcoming year. Certainly, we are working hard, and as the president mentioned, and as ASU mentioned, talent acquisition, talent retention is certainly a key focus for NAU this year, as well as going forward.
Thank you. Any questions or comments by any regents? Here none. Thank you very much. We have President Robbins, and maybe you want to have Lisa, or it's just you provide the remarks for you. Lisa.
Thank you, Chair Mata. As Senior Vice President Rowling makes her way up to make maybe some more detailed comments about our budget, I just want to thank Lisa, her team, all of our administrators, provost folks, our students, shared governance partners, faculty and staff for participating in this rather extensive budgetary process that we go through every year, while at the same time working on changing our budgeting process to an activities-informed budget process. So that's a lot to take on, and to produce this budget, I'm really appreciative. It obviously reflects an increase in, we've been fortunate, all of our universities have been fortunate compared to our peers across the country to see increases in enrollment. And this budget reflects an increase in net tuition revenue and fees. Also, we're investing in our research enterprise, particularly with the health sciences growing in research expenditures as we chase down that highly elusive $1 billion expenditure goal that we all have. And it follows our strategic plan to invest in the things that we think are important at the University of Arizona, particularly student success. So I'll turn it over to Lisa to maybe highlight some of the actual numbers.
Thank you, Chair Mata and President Robbins. I think that you summarized our presentation from the Finance, Capital and Resources Committee well. I think that I would add that we expect our net position to increase at the end of fiscal year 23. We expect our cash to be well within the Moody's median range, along with increases in net tuition revenue and research. As President Robbins mentioned, we expect to see increases in auxiliary revenue as campus is in full swing this fall. And like ASU, our partners at ASU and NAU, we expect to make investments in staff and both recruitment and retention of our employees.
Thank you. Any questions or comments by the Regent? Regent Herbal?
I just have a comment for the presidents and the CFOs. A terrific job in terms of balancing revenue and costs in a year that inflation is out of hand, so to speak. A marvelous job has been done. So that's a really, really first class.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I would like to say the same thing and second what, Regent Herbal said, that the three universities have done an amazing job with their budget, but at the same time, we can see the increase on enrollment, which is amazing for what we have gone through, the last 2 years. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you, President Robbins. So if we don't have any further questions, I move that the board approve the fiscal year 2023 annual budgets for Arizona State University, Northern Arizona University, University of Arizona, as presented in the executive summary. However, since this budget contains only preliminary state appropriations for fiscal year 2023 budgets, will be adjusted once state appropriations are finalized. This adjustment will be reflected in the fall budget updated and I would like to ask if there's a second. Thank you. Chair Manson, we have a motion and a second if you would like to call for the vote.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion does carry. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have the next item, item number 6 is the approval of the first amended multi-year employment agreement for the University of Arizona men's basketball head coach, Tommy Lloyd. President Robbins will be presenting this item. Do you have any other person that would like to add? David and
David.
David.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Regent Mata, and thank you to all the regents for the opportunity to be here today and with a lot of enthusiasm and great confidence to bring forward a new contract and extension to the multi-year agreement that we have with Coach Lloyd going forward into the future. Coach Lloyd's come to Arizona and immediately stabilized our program. Much needed stability, has brought increased success on the court competitively, brought in a terrific staff, again, really brought our program together at a critical time, an elite level basketball program. And through outstanding leadership, through strong staff, and through development of our student athletes, both on and off the court. His success has been well documented. I do want to hit a few highlights. As a first-year head coach in the Pac-12, some incredible accomplishments. We were the Pac-12 conference champions in the regular season. We were the Pac-12 tournament champions. We were the #1 seed going into the NCAA tournament. We were ranked as high as #2 in the country in college basketball, staying in the top 10 for the majority of the season. He had the most wins ever by a first-year coach in the Pac-12 of conference wins. He had the most wins in the history of the Pac-12 conference overall wins. He is only second in the history of the NCAA as a first-year coach for the number of wins that he had. Just one shot at 33, 34 is the record, if you were wondering. 3 NBA draft choices, including Pac-12 Player of the Year, the Defensive Player of the Year, and a number of all-conference honors. So again, an outstanding team that he brought together. As well, being awarded 3 of the 4 Coaches of the Year awards during the season from the Basketball Writers of America, the Coaches Association itself. So 3 outstanding awards there. Coaching is part of it, but having the right person, as all of us in the industry understand, having the right people lead your programs is critically important. We have an individual absolutely committed to integrity, doing things the right way, an outstanding recruiter, developing the appropriate kind of relationships in the recruiting space with high school coaches, with those who scout the college basketball scene, and also internationally. A person leading our program, engaged in our community, engaged with our alums, engaged with our former basketball players. And again, I'd say an outstanding public representative of our university and our athletics program. So as I started with, a person who really has provided stability at a critically important time for our program and for the athletic department and for our university. So this really is a move about and a commitment on both sides to have Coach Lloyd with us for a very long time, to lead our program, continue to lead the program, continue to build the program as we all want, and be a key member of our university community well into the future. So with that, I know that the executive summary is here, and happy to entertain any questions, clarify any points if there are any from the group. And again, thank you to the Regents, and thank you, Chair Manson, for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Dave. Any questions or comments? Regent Henley?
Thank you very much, Chair Mata. I would just like to thank you, Director Hickey, for all that you've done to really not only bring in a successful basketball coach, which is representative of the historic importance of basketball for the University of Arizona, but also as well to really drive a culture, not just of winning, but a culture that focuses on the academic success of the students, as was evidence and material that's been presented to this board. So thank you and congratulations to you and everyone associated with the athletic department for the great success.
Thank you, Regent Penley.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Regent Chair Manson?
Thank you. So I'd like to echo my appreciation for the people that you brought into the athletics department in your tenure here at the University of Arizona. It's been a huge change, I think, in very, very much in the right direction. And I'm very appreciative of that. I think that environment sets the tone for a lot of the university, particularly in an environment where you have, some of the top teams and very high profile teams in a sport. I just want the public to be aware that we did have discussions about the magnitude of the change of this contract, and that while it is difficult to swallow, it is a lot of money. We understand that. It is also extraordinarily important to the University of Arizona. This sport in particular, obviously, is very high profile, has been very successful, went through some very difficult years, and having the integrity and the character of a coach like Tony Lloyd, having his success in his first year really coaching this team after recruiting them, says magnitudes about who he is and how he approaches this. And then, I'm very appreciative.
Thank you, Chair Manson. I appreciate that. And we're proud to have good people that make good decisions. And generally, when you do those two things, good outcomes occur. And I commend Dr. Robbins for having that philosophy and demanding that's the type of campus that we'll have.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thank you. Here none. I move that the board approve the first amended multi-year employment agreement for the University of Arizona's men's basketball head coach, Tommy Lloyd, as described in the executive summary. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Chair Manson, we have a motion and a second. If you would like to call for the vote.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Do I get to vote?
Thank you also.
Any abstentions? The motion does carry.
Madam Chair, this concludes the Finance, Capital, and Resources Committee agenda. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, David.
We are now going to take a 15-minute break. We will reconvene at 5 after 3 for the academic affairs and educational team.
3 months together. Good. He is gonna be around for a while.
Thank you all. Our next item is the report on the Academic Affairs and Educational Attainment Committee, and Regent Penley is the chair. Would you please present?
Thank you very much, Chair Manson. We met, as did the Finance Committee, on May 26th. And we began our meeting with an update from Superintendent Kathy Hoffman about the Department of Education and a number of issues that she wanted to raise. We continued with Northern Arizona University's presenting its update on its allied health programs and really a very substantial workforce contributions to the health and welfare of Arizona citizens around the state. I was particularly pretty pleased, and thank you, President Cruz Rivera, for the work that you and the provost have done to really look innovatively at how to expand allied health programs. So thanks to both of you for the work that you're doing. We appreciate that very much. The committee then engaged in a discussion regarding the university's online enterprises and online metrics. We moved in the last few years to focus on accountability for our programs, differentiation of the three universities, something that's been continued over a period of time. And we're still in the throes of defining the online metrics, but we will get there. And we will have goals in those that are something that really demands that we continue to make a higher quality experience for our online students as we do for the students who are on our campuses. So you'll hear more from that as the committee continues its work. The committee reviewed ASU and the University of Arizona's academic program unit requests. And I want to thank the provosts for the work that they've done to really incorporate concepts and competencies into the way they've explained these degree programs, which makes it easier for students and the public to understand what they're getting from the programs. And further, we've seen really a substantial change toward assessment in these programs. And I know when Provost Gonzalez and I talked about that, that was a personal commitment of hers to really focus more heavily on assessment. And that's been evident in the programs that we saw from the University of Arizona and Arizona State University at our committee meeting. We also dealt with qualifying examinations and approval of those by the committee. We concluded our board office request. We concluded our meeting with proposed revisions to 3 board policies: conditions of faculty service, financial aid policy, and residency classification for tuition purposes. Those are forwarded to the board as a matter of first reading in those policy changes. And Chair Manson, that concludes the report from Academic Affairs and Educational Attainment.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Thank you. Right, our next item is the report from the Audit Committee, and Regent Purple as committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee met on the 26th of May. The first topic that we covered dealt with the Auditor General. There were 3 performance audits that were concluded. There were 4 completed audits that were revisited at various stages. And this is not unusual in that on certain issues, they want to come back and make sure that things continue to operate the way they should. Regarding the Auditor General's financial audits, they're just wrapping up the audit of the state of Arizona. And that does include the federal grant programs of the universities. The Auditor General is beginning the fiscal year 2022 fiscal audits of the university. So we will hear more about that. The second item we covered was the status of internal audits. Across the 3 universities, 8 internal audits were completed. Of those, there were 5 controls that were found to have significant issues. 3 of those were at ASU in regard to coaches, camps, and clinics. 2 were at NAU involving reliability and oversight of financial systems and safeguarding of assets. So there were 3 audit reports that were received from external agencies, and each of these was clean. So the third item we covered was audit plans for 2023. Each of the universities submitted their proposed audit plan, and all 3 were approved. The fourth item we covered was IT security policy. This is policy 9-202. It was presented by Jenny Pollock, and it was in the area of IT security. The committee approved forwarding it to the full board for adoption, and that was in your consent calendar, so it has been approved. The fifth item was enterprise risk management. This was NAU's turn to review this. Now, as a reminder, this is a somewhat new process. Basically, you take the serious risks in your university and you rank them by likelihood and impact. This is a very important exercise in terms of universities making it clear where they have potential big problems and what they're going to do about it in the attempt to thwart it ever happening. So this is an exercise that we will go through regularly with taking one university at a time and cycle through every year, because this really is an important subject. We had done University of Arizona and ASU in November and March respectively. So NAU was the third of the 3, and we're really developing, I think, a robust process to meet this need. During the execution of these reviews, the board gets a good chance to realize where our traps are, so to speak, and make sure that they're playing a role in terms of supporting the overall efforts to get these things dealt with. The last item was Chief Auditor private discussions. We concluded a review of assignments with each of the university's chief auditors. Those are important because it gives the chief auditor, without any of their management present, to tell us about any concerns they might have that we could potentially help them with overcome. So we do these regularly, and it's a very valuable exercise. And we ask each of the chief auditors to come visit with us for whatever time it requires, and we hear from them. Madam Chair, this concludes the audit committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Herbold. Any questions or comments from the board? I just appreciate the thoroughness of the report. I think that was well done, and audit reports can tend to be dry. That was helpful.
No.
All right, thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is the presentation of NAU's revised strategic plan, NAU 2025 Elevating Excellence. And President Cruz Villegas has the floor.
Thank you, Chair Manson. Thank you all for the opportunity to present the strategic roadmap that will guide our university's work in the coming years, NAU 2025 Elevating Excellence. As we will see, this is a roadmap that describes in a clear, succinct, actionable, and measurable way the aspirations of the dedicated and determined members of our extended Lumberjack family. A roadmap that illustrates how the people that shape the trajectory of NAU believe they can best respond to the issues of opportunity, economic mobility, and social impact that are so central to meeting the imperative of delivering post-secondary value for all. A roadmap that presents a clear differentiated value proposition and lays the foundation for bold actions that will make NAU more relevant and responsive to the needs of the people of Arizona and beyond. A roadmap that privileges NAU's historical student-centric focus and commitment to engage scholarship, even as it seeks to support the university's distinctive and emerging areas of research excellence. While the language in elevating excellence is necessarily aspirational, the priorities presented are informed by the strategic context in which NAU operates. A context that describes a backdrop where the value of higher education is increasingly being questioned. A backdrop where we celebrate the state's booming economy among the fastest growing in the nation, as we saw earlier today, even as we recognize that 7 out of every 10 of the high-paying new jobs that these conditions are creating will require a college degree. A backdrop where education obtained in the state is lagging national norms, with projections suggesting that the likelihood of a 9th grader in Arizona today earning a bachelor's degree by 2029 is only 17%. At a time when, as we saw earlier today as well, investments in higher education continue to be significantly below the national average. A backdrop where a focus on social impact is imperative and the need for a new, more responsive NAU is more urgent than ever. Now, the good news is that if we're able to really address this context in which we are operating, the potential reward for effectively responding to it is significant, not only for the students and their families that will be impacted through the excellent NAU education, but also because we know that we should still suggest that by just reaching the national average in educational attainment, the potential is there for Arizona to double its economic growth rate. Keenly aware of this strategic context and armed with important knowledge about NAU's values, aspirations, and areas of distinctive excellence that surfaced through or during the presidential transition, and after much discussion with members of the Arizona Board of Regents, at the beginning of the academic year, we identified 3 foundational imperatives to be addressed during this, the first year of our 17th presidency. First, we saw the need to assemble a high-quality, collaborative, mission-driven, and effective leadership team with the corresponding administrative and deliberative structures to properly organize, pace, and support the work of a more responsive NAU with clearly articulated processes for decision-making and consultation. Today, I am pleased to report that the state of our leadership and governance foundation is strong, and we look forward to building upon it. Among other accomplishments, we have stabilized our cabinet level positions with world-class leaders, approved a new faculty constitution, established university-wide consultative bodies, including the University Advisory Board and the University Budget Advisory Board, and launched new deliberative bodies within academic affairs to ensure broad faculty participation in shared governance issues that are ultimately elevated to the Faculty Senate. Second, we saw the need to reposition NAU within the Arizona higher ed landscape through the restructuring of our admissions, pricing, and financial aid packaging practices, and to clearly articulate the value we bring to students and families through our marketing and communications efforts. Today, I am proud to state that our positioning is differentiated, and we have set the foundation for further expansion. Among other accomplishments, we have aligned our admissions requirements to Arizona's high school graduation requirements, assured admissions to all talented, hardworking high school graduates with a 3.0 GPA, and guaranteed that starting in fall 2023, the approximately $11,000 cost of tuition for the excellent education provided by NAU will be fully covered by federal and institutional financial aid for students from Arizona and households making under $65,000 per year, all while remaining the lowest cost of attendance university in the state, committed to serving the talented, hardworking students who power Arizona's future prosperity. And third, we saw the need to develop a set of institutional goals and objectives that will not only differentiate NAU, but also describe an initial set of strategic priorities. And so today I am thrilled to present the results of this process, a sharply focused, time-limited strategic roadmap, which we are now calling NAU 2025, Elevating Excellence. Now, before walking us through Elevating Excellence, I want to acknowledge the 39 faculty, staff, students, and administrators who facilitated its development. Many of whom are here with us today. Let's please give them a big round of applause. Over a period of 8 months, they engaged internal and external stakeholders in a thoughtful and purposeful process that resulted in the roadmap I present today. a process that generated over 10,000 inputs from NAU faculty, staff, students, alumni, friends, and supporters in response to the 4 different drafts circulated for comment. The result, as we will see today, is an actionable set of priorities that reflect the hopes and aspirations of the extended lumberjack community and a revised set of mission, vision, and commitment statements, collectively referred to as the new NAU charter. The mission statement is bold. NAU aims to be the nation's preeminent engine of opportunity, vehicle of economic mobility, and driver of social impact by delivering equitable post-secondary value in Arizona and beyond. Students and the communities they represent experience post-secondary value when provided equitable access and support. Another way of saying meeting students where they are, to complete quality, affordable credentials that offer economic mobility through career readiness and prepare them to advance a more prosperous and just society. The mission statement is clear. NAU transforms lives and enriches communities through high quality academics and impactful scholarship, creative endeavors, and public service. And the commitment statement is unequivocal. NAU will educate, support, and empower students from all backgrounds, identities, and lived experiences to reach their full potential and contribute to a more just, equitable, inclusive, prosperous, and sustainable future. Throughout our time building the strategic roadmap, we sought to define the goal of our work and mission into a cohesive and interlocking set of priorities. Those are before you now and will be expanded upon individually in the slides that follow. The 7 priorities for NAU that compose our roadmap to 2025 are academic excellence, student success, commitment to indigenous peoples, impactful scholarship, mission-driven and diverse faculty and staff, community engagement, and sustainable stewardship of resources. Taken together, these represent all dimensions of our work and underpin our ability to deliver on the bold vision of elevating excellence. As we progress through each of the strategic priorities and their corresponding components in the slides that follow, I want to call attention to an important facet of our work thus far. That is, we haven't been sitting around waiting for elevating excellence to be in place to start advancing this important work. Rather, we have been working hard to build a foundation that will allow us to hit the ground running once it is approved. And we are positioned to keep driving this change and impact year after year through 2025. Furthermore, I'd like to stress that these strategic priorities, when taken together, will support a university environment exhibiting true diversity and inclusion, where the complexity of personal experiences, values, and worldviews and perspectives that arise from differences and intersections of culture and circumstance, such as race, sex, ethnicity, age, religion, language, political perspective, ability, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, socioeconomic, veteran, or other status or geographic region, are woven into the fabric of the institution. So now, with that backdrop, let's get started with priority number 1, academic excellence. Throughout our 122-year history, from beginning as a teacher's college until today, exceptional academic programs that have substantial positive effects on preparing students to enter the workforce have been ingrained into our institutional identity. Hence, academics, and I want to highlight that it is excellent academics, are our first priority. It is the academic programs, their rigor, and the preparation they provide that enables and empowers our students to live rich and fulfilling lives post-graduation. The components tell that story. As we pursue this priority, we must position our students for postgraduate success. We must ensure they participate in high-impact learning opportunities, such as undergraduate research, mentoring with faculty and career coaches, experiential learning, be it locally, regionally, nationally, or internationally. And we must educate our students in a way that will be driven by exceptional teacher scholars who are supported in part and through the university in terms of their professional growth, so that they in turn can help our students excel. A culture of student success and academic excellence is central to the NAU of today and the NAU of tomorrow. I'll briefly highlight a piece of this work that has been under development and will be integral to our success here. In November, the board approved NAU's General Studies program, This is a powerful program that we aim to implement by 2023 that is focused on giving our students the career, professional, and social competencies to excel, no matter their major and no matter where life takes them. They will be critical thinkers, versed in history, strong communicators, able to grapple with difficult and complex ideas, fluent in problem solving, and equipped to navigate the diverse and dynamic world we live and work in with skill that will make them engaged, civic-minded individuals who contribute to the vitality, socially and economically, of our state and our world. This is truly a 21st century curriculum that spans disciplines, and it will be the centerpiece of our academic excellence moving forward. I'll also point to a few other exemplars of excellence at NAU, just a few. I don't want to get too many people riled up about those that are not on the list, that underline the quality and diversity of our impactful academic programs. And an important note is that each of these target areas, or these areas are targets for continued excellence. One, our honors college. Our College of Environment, Forestry, and Natural Sciences and its many centers of excellence, including the School of Earth and Sustainability, the Pathogen and Microbiome Institute, our Department of Astronomy, the Center for Ecosystem Science and Society, and others. Our College of Health and Human Services, with its exceptional and growing allied health programs, and the Interdisciplinary Center for Health Equity Research and the Southwest Health Equity Research Collaborative. Our College of Education, whose history dates back to our founding as a teacher's college, and all of the exceptional educational programs housed therein, many of which serve as the vital pipeline for Arizona's future teacher workforce. Our Kids School of Music and the exceptional education in the arts that our university provides, and the world-class venues in which we perform week in and week out. Of course, I could go on, but we have 6 additional priorities to discuss, so I will continue. Following on our foundation of academic programs, the next priority is all about who we serve, our students. It was apparent from the very beginning of this process that we must have a priority that builds on the traditional value that has always been central to NAU, student success. We need to broaden access to more Arizonans, and do so while also establishing a strong mix of out-of-state and international students. We need to grow, but do so responsibly, thoughtfully, and strategically, particularly through online and statewide programs to meet students wherever they live and learn, in addition to our flagship campus and flex. We need to ensure these students are successful, retaining them, closing gaps, and helping them persist until graduation. And we need to ensure that as they enter the world post-graduation, they are equipped to succeed and live those rich lives we envision for all. Now, this past year, we have done nationally recognized exemplary work with the support of the board in pursuing student success. As I mentioned earlier, the foundation is in place with access to excellence. Our students in Arizona, talented, hardworking from all walks of life, they now know that the excellence of an NAU education is available, accessible, and affordable for them. Importantly, we're also ensuring all students, regardless of household income, who meet our admissions requirements know NAU is an affordable option, as we're still the lowest cost of attendance school in the state. That's important because we want all Arizonans to see a place for themselves here at NAU. The next priority is our restated commitment to indigenous peoples. NAU has a unique location in northern Arizona, nestled at the base of the San Francisco Peaks, bordering the largest federally recognized tribe in the U.S., the Navajo Nation, and with a rich and long-standing history of serving and partnering with Native American communities and supporting their students through higher education. This commitment is renewed in elevating excellence. We are focused on educating all students about our history and sharing indigenous knowledge, supporting the access and success of our Native American and indigenous students, especially as we seek to turn around enrollment declines and lower than desired graduation rates registered in recent years, promoting and supporting indigenous scholarship through our established and emerging centers of excellence across academic disciplines, having an engaged staff and faculty that are represented by Native and indigenous peoples, and engaging with indigenous communities near and far in a mutually beneficial manner. This fall, we celebrated the 10-year anniversary of the Native American Cultural Center. This is a cultural and social hub on our campus, engaging Native American leaders, scholars, students, and many other constituents from within our university, our state, and around the world. It is a home away from home and one of the bedrocks of our native servanthood. As we advance elevating excellence, the NAC will remain a hub, and we have ambitious plans to expand and develop this facility to broaden our reach to engage with tribes throughout the state and beyond. We have incredible researchers such as Dr. Tammy Abram, Regents Professor, working at the forefronts of their fields, and at the same time giving our Indigenous students hands-on opportunities to contribute to their research and work in their labs. Yes, we are building off an exceptionally strong foundation and the future is bright. We're moving beyond just words. Our actions to become the nation's leading university. Serving Indigenous peoples will be concrete and transformative. Over the years, NAU has developed a recognized portfolio of exceptional research, scholarship, and creative activity. This commitment ensures that our scholarship across all areas of existing and emerging excellence are recognized, nurtured, and produce results that enrich lives and contribute to solving problems of regional, national, and global relevance. At the core are our teacher scholars. They are in the classroom and in the labs in the field, and they are the foundation of our educational experiences. Our students have direct access to a deep pool of talented scholars and thought leaders. And to enrich the student experience, we seek to broaden the number and diversity of students participating, interact, engage in impactful practices with our teacher scholars. Our research and service has been and will continue to be impactful, particularly in our local communities where it supports knowledge, economic development, and quality of life. The solutions we contribute to make a difference right here at home. Our distinctive legacy and emerging excellence in scholarship will also play out on the broadest stage as we address challenges on a grand scale. At NAU, we are at the leading edge of fields that include pathogen research, health disparities, ecology, and sustainability science, astronomy, and more. And we will support and recognize our faculty who advance these efforts to build a community of scholarship. The excellence of our scholarship is reflected in growing research expenditures, a tremendous commitment from philanthropic partners to our School of Music and Performance venues, which are truly exceptional, and our distinction in certain areas which continue to resonate. Of course, all of these ambitious goals need people, exceptional, talented, dedicated, mission-driven people to make them a reality. And in light of the pandemic and evolving challenges faced by public and private sector employers around the world, NAU has redoubled its commitments to be a people-first university. As we think about how best to recruit, retain, develop, recognize, and support the workforce that will carry out the mission of our university, we have defined a few core components. First, through effective policies and practices, we will recruit, retain, and develop faculty and staff who are highly qualified and committed to the excellence and impact of the new NAU. Second, we will support the well-being of our workforce. Third, we will foster a culture of shared responsibility for all dimensions of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, so as to better center our commitment to all within our community and their success as supported by our faculty and staff. And fourth, because of our core student-centric focus, we will ensure that our faculty and staff are trained and supported to be leaders in promoting our students' success every step of the way. At the beginning of this year, we initiated a major step in this work by introducing the new NAU Workplace suite of policies and practices. They are responsive to the demands of a modern workplace and put NAU at the forefront of higher education for flexible, employee-focused, and mission-aligned practices. And we've taken tremendous steps to invest in our people, with one-time payments to cover some of the costs of inflation, a consultative budget advisory board charged with reviewing a sustainable salary increase plan, the approval and implementation of a teaching track, and much more. How do we engage with our community? That's the next priority. Here in Flagstaff, the sense of community is incredibly strong. We must continue to redouble our efforts to be good stewards of our community, to engage with our neighbors in a mutually beneficial manner, and to be embedded and impactful in the work we do to support our home communities. First, I am proud that we're thinking of this priority as one for Flagstaff specifically, but also applicable broadly throughout our state. Everywhere NAU has a presence, in Yuma, in Maricopa, in Pima, in Yavapai. Second, we are committed to ensuring our work In particular, the academic programs we offer have a direct benefit to the public good of our state, driving economic and social impact. Third, building on an existing foundation to establish statewide connection workforce partners through clinical placements, teacher placement, internship opportunities, and the like. We are sure that we will be able to provide our students with the opportunities they need to demonstrate that they can be an asset in our local economy. Increasing our alumni engagement is another important component. We have a huge alumni population in Arizona and beyond. We can and will leverage their enthusiasm, good thinking, achievements, connections, and commitment to NAU to build a brighter future for all Lumberjacks. And finally, we will celebrate the excellence of what we offer in Flagstaff: arts, cultural experiences, athletics, and so much more. We will nurture it and ensure that Flagstaff can be proud of the incredible university that is so deeply integrated into this mountain community. In fact, 53% of all households within the city limits of Flagstaff have an NAU alum inside of it. Our final priority is the one that truly enables all of the others: leading edge physical and virtual resources, an excellent built environment, and a sustainable and healthy financial outlook that can drive our mission forward. Our actions are already underway for each of the components shown here, which include a smart master plan. NAU has just launched the 10-year plan, a 10-year plan process that shows how we're thinking big about how we use our space to better serve our students, deliver academic programs, support scholarship, and create exceptional environments on campus. This process will develop over the next year, and I'm excited to have a plan for the physical new NAU to accompany the conceptual plans for a new NAU. This spring, I challenged our university to build an actionable plan to achieve carbon neutrality by 2030. This is the right thing for the environment. It is an issue NAU has vast research and practice experience in. It resonates with the values of our students and our community, and I know that together we can achieve it with responsible stewardship of all of our resources. A technological infrastructure that underpins a modern university is also an important component for cutting-edge teaching, learning, and research, and with excellent security always in mind. And finally, crucially, sustainable, diversified revenue streams that support our action and complement the increased revenue we expect from higher enrollments and better retention is another key component of this priority. And I'm pleased to share that in addition to the board's general support for one-time trip funding, the additional partnerships and investments of the NAU Foundation Board, and the broad interest of public and private funders, this first year of our presidency has resonated with NAU's existing philanthropic community, and we will be very close and possibly achieve our highest fundraising total ever. So where do we go from here? First, we're already in the process of developing several signature initiatives comprised of bold impact projects that will collectively help advance all of our strategic priorities and their corresponding components. Each initiative will include a set of metrics and timelines to assess their effectiveness in advancing our priorities. We look forward to working with the board to set institutional metrics and targets to complement the forecast and enterprise metrics. Second, we're evaluating better ways to organize, pace, and staff our work, including making organizational changes that will allow us to advance the new NAU without unduly disrupting the excellent work of today's NAU. Case in point, the new Office of Economic Mobility and Social Impact that will launch on July 1st. Third, we are evaluating several investment opportunities that will not only advance the priorities of this plan, but also promise to generate recurring revenue streams into the future. This includes a recent $4 million impact project in Turner RFP that has generated more than 100 excellent proposals from administrators, faculty, and staff. More information on these efforts will be presented to the board in the fall. Finally, while I have spent most of my time today describing how NAU plans to meet the challenges and seize the opportunities of the bold and boundless future that lies ahead, I hope that the narrative presented has also served to paint a vivid picture of a mobilized and engaged university community that is deeply committed to expanding access, broadening participation, increasing completion rates, eliminating achievement gaps, reducing time to degree, improving post-college life and career outcomes, pushing the frontiers of knowledge, better serving our communities, doing all of that while keeping costs affordable for our students and their families. All of this supports an effort to make our vision presented in this plan a reality. That is, to be the nation's preeminent engine of opportunity, vehicle of economic mobility, and drive our social impact by delivering equitable post-secondary value in Arizona. So with that, Madam Chair, I thank you, the board, and our awesome NAU community for the support today on ensuring that our university, at the end of the first year of our 17th presidency, has a clear vision of the hard, important work that collectively we must undertake, with the understanding that the magnitude of the challenges we will face will require the coherence of our actions. Thank you very much, and I hope that I met my 20-minute mark. I'll be happy to take questions.
Are there questions or comments from the board?
Just send out that picture and say, that's the kid.
Exactly. Enrollment, admission, and your applications will go through the roof.
And no wind, please.
Yeah.
This is terrific. Thank you for that great report, exciting report. I reflect back to a year ago and the conversations about what you wanted to accomplish in your first year. And, I got to say, it's a pretty good report card. You got here and you said, we need to focus immediately on what was a significantly declining enrollment, and you got most of it back. Your fundraising, those two things, obviously, you tackled the balance sheet right up front, which I think is really significant. Second, the campus is re-energized. I mean, there is just simply a culture of ambition and opportunity and a sense of hopefulness that I think comes from this. And a lot of that was because the breadth of your engagement in the way you put this together touched so many constituencies that needed to be touched. And so I think that will be a gift that keeps on giving. I think it will extend your presidential honeymoon, perhaps into a second year. And hopefully beyond that. There's just.
I will say that I'm just hoping that we will have a stable marriage.
And with this report, so do we. Look, I think the hardest thing, this is a very unique campus and very unique community. And it has a very different DNA than virtually any other community in the state. And the campus has its own DNA. And you've captured it. I mean, I think as you talk to students and faculty and all the constituents and community leaders, there's a sense that you're in sync with the unique attributes and psychology of the place in which you inhabit, which is special, and I think will be enhancing to the sense of hopefulness and excitement, coming forward. So I just want to say you set out a set of things you wanted to do in the first year, and want to compliment you. I think you landed the plane. So let's do about 10 more years of this. All right.
Regent Finley.
Thank you, Chair Manson. I certainly concur with Regent Duvall. It is terrific, to use his word. It is well done, and it really addresses so much of what we had hoped for. President Cruz Rivera in choosing you as the president of Northern Arizona University. And again, I agree with Regent Duvall. The extent to which you have engaged with both the campus community and the broader community of Flagstaff, as well as the constituents that you have across Arizona, that has made an enormous difference. Now, as a former university president, and I suspect Bobby Robbins or Michael Crow could join me in this, there is no second year of honeymoon that I can. Nonetheless, well done. There a couple of things I would really like to call out that impressed me especially. We really asked you to really focus on differentiating NAU. Now, this board years and years ago began that process of calling on our presidents and the universities to really not try to be the same as one another, to serve the state of Arizona and our country better by differentiating yourself. And you've initiated that process, which I know will go on. But I call a special attention to the focus that you put on access, attainment, and career success. Now, that's really challenging, I think, to achieve all three of those. Creating greater access for young people, having them be successful in the institution, attain their degrees, and then go on to post-graduation success, either in a professional program, a graduate program, or in a job. That will be difficult to really pull off in the longer run, but the commitment, I think, is laudable. I also want to go to what you've done with commitment to Indigenous people. When I first joined this board, a regent named Luann Leonard was a part of this board. She's an enrolled member of the Hopi tribe. And Regent Leonard would always remind us of just how important it is to be responsive to Indigenous people in the state of Arizona with the wealth of diversity in those people that we have here. You have made that an important piece of what you've done here. It really calls on NAU to really build on its historic focus on Indigenous people. You, as you noted, beneath the San Francisco Peaks, next door to the largest tribal nation in the country, you've endorsed that commitment. I know we've seen over the last few years a slight decline in enrollment of Indigenous peoples in NAU. I believe that with the commitment that you've made, we'll see that turned around and provide more opportunity to a very significant segment of the population of Arizona. Finally, I want to turn to sustainable stewardship of resources. We live in a fragile environment. I think those of us who live in the desert in the South, which look at that as fragile, sometimes forget how terribly fragile this plateau is, the Colorado Plateau, and how important the Colorado Plateau is, and how unique the Colorado Plateau is. By focusing on the place that you have here and really making that sustainable, I think you live up to an important responsibility of this institution, especially with significant climate change. So much that's laudable here. I congratulate you and everyone at Northern Arizona University and those associated with the university on the speed with which you have moved ahead to create a fine roadmap for the future.
Thank you, Regent Finley. Any other comments? So as the Flagstaff resident, I have a bit of a special perspective on this. And I think the transformation that has occurred in this town and this university in the last year is nothing short of miraculous. The morale in this town, the morale at this university are completely different. People are pushing forward with positivity. You have managed to, in your first year here, really capture the ethos of NAU, what its history is, what its present is, what its future can be. Those are linked, they're meshed, they're consistent, and there's continuous improvement without losing NAU's personality. And I think that's incredibly important to this community and to this school. It's also incredibly important to this state because frankly, we don't need 3 schools that are clones of each other. We need 3 schools. You know, we're an environment that doesn't have 25 public institutions. We have 3. And it is our obligation in this state to provide educational opportunities that span the breadth of our citizens. Not everybody wants to go to an R1 research university. Not everybody wants to go to a mountain campus. It's our obligation and our responsibility to provide that. And I think what you've done is you've made NAU return a bit to its roots without going back in time to the good old days, as it were. So I'm very appreciative. I think that what you have done in the 12 months that you have been here is a yeoman's job. And what you have done, you've done as a group. You have connected people to you and your vision, and not your vision, but their vision with you. And that's an incredibly powerful tool. And I just wanted to mention.
Thank you. I want to acknowledge that all of the work this past year has been really facilitated by a great administrative team, by superb faculty, very talented students and staff that is deeply committed to the work of this institution. I have great partners, the president of our faculty senate, Kate Ellis, being a huge asset to our ability to collectively move this institution forward. And I very much appreciate the support of the board from day one in allowing us to think big and work together to get there. Thank you very much.
Any further comments or questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, I am going to move that the board receive NAU 2025 Elevating Excellence, NAU's revised strategic plan, and adopt NAU's revised mission. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the Student Regents Report. And Regent Dave and Regent Conner, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Chair Manson. I am happy to report that since our last board meeting, I have had the opportunity to meet with the Higher Ed Food Security Coalition. This is a group of state leaders committed to supporting students across the state in accessing consistent, nutritious, and affordable meals. So these members support Arizona families with students of all ages by providing numerous programs and resources to combat food insecurity. So these efforts bolster the work done by Regent Stave and Regent Rusk regarding food and housing insecurity among students at Arizona's public universities. So we're really appreciative for the work that's being done to support students across the state, especially as many are on break for the summer and may not have access to the resources that are available during the school year. Speaking of which, although student activity on campus has slowed down over the summer, there is much to look forward to this fall semester. I'm looking forward to working with incoming student regent Caitlin Reese, and we're excited to collaborate with an excellent cohort of student body leaders from all three universities. And along with that, Regent Dave and I would like to thank the student leadership for their incredible work over this past year. It's been really inspiring to collaborate with these individuals and observe the impact that they've made on their respective campuses. So I look forward to bringing more updates once the fall semester begins.
And I just want to quickly echo the last part that Regent Kenyer mentioned, which is just, again, a sincere thank you to the student leadership at all three universities for the hard work that they've put in over the year and their willingness to collaborate with us, their willingness to be open with us and share what they were worried about, to be responsive to things that we had in motion. And I'm excited to see how the student regent position continues to grow. So thank you.
Thank you. Have any questions from the regents? So I'm now going to take this opportunity to honor Regent Dave, who is concluding his 2 years. I'm sure that I speak for my fellow regents and the university presidents when I say that we are incredibly appreciative of your commitment to public higher education and your service on the board. So student regents are, they bring a unique perspective to the board's discussions and work. They offer critical insights from their vantage point as students that shape and inform their initiatives and their decisions. All of us are, I hate to do the math, but decades from participating in a college campus as a student. And it is really important that we hear what they have to say from their position on the ground. Tenacity and grit often describe student regents. They juggle the demands of their academic careers with intense board schedule as well. They often have jobs and internships, and I imagine that many of them find time for relationships as well, and the other things that go along with being in college. I have to say, Nikhil, I think you have superpowers. So I'm just going to go through a little bit of a list of his accomplishments, and I think you all will find this astounding. So he led ASU's Luminosity Lab team to win the X Prize of $1 million for a next generation mask challenge. This is an incredible accomplishment. An international innovation competition where over 900 teams competed for more than 50 years. That is no small achievement unto itself. He's one of 4 students who led a university-wide COVID-19 personal protection equipment response network initiative, supplying over 14,000 units of PPE to Arizona medical clinics in need when supplies were hard to come by. And if I remember correctly, this involved 3D printing of things.
Yes, the objects didn't exist, they had to be manufactured.
He led the design, development, and scientific validation of 2 patent pending sterilization systems for N95 respirators. This was in 3 months. So he was introduced, and I'm guessing, I don't know your grade point average, but I'm guessing it was pretty darn good.
Could have been better.
So Regent Dave was introduced to higher education early on in his life. When he was in high school, he began studying Alzheimer's disease at ASU's Biodesign Institute. And during that time, he co-authored 2 publications and presented his research at several conferences. It's no surprise that he was then named to Arizona's 18 under 18 and awarded a Flint Scholarship. So this is just a short list. And this is what he does in his spare time. On the board, your tenacity and your dedication has been absolutely unwavering. So you regularly met with student leaders, matters of concern, you put the spotlight on the student food, housing, and security along with Regent Rusk. You guys not only raised the awareness of the issue, but put concrete actions into place for all 3 universities. You've been a staunch advocate of the Promise program, which enables low-income Arizona students to attend college and removes barriers to higher education for students. You served in several leadership positions on the board, including assistant treasurer, member of the Research and Health Sciences Committee, the Finance and Capital Resources Committee. You should be very, very proud of the titles that you've earned. Regent, innovator, scientist, scholar, more. You have an incredibly bright and a tremendous future in front of you, I have no doubt. I'm really, really proud to be able to call you a friend. And I thank you for this service to the board, our universities, our students in the state of Arizona. I wish you the very best of luck in your new job in Chicago. I'm sure that your mother already has multiple trips, purchased airline tickets. And tell her not to come in January. You need to come back down here in January. We are much the better for your participation. So I'm going to present you with this gift from the Board of Regents, and then I'm going to open the floor to the presidents and other members of the board. It's kind of like Christmas, right? I'm going to open the floor to other regents first, and then I'll move on to the presidents. So are there other regents who would like to make comments? Regent Herbert.
Over the last year or so, I've ended up sitting next to this gentleman quite often at board meetings. And the thing I'd like to add to the list of honors is he is capable of out eating. Not only a one-time session of eating, but a continuous. So it's absolutely impressive.
That's a first.
Yeah, to you, Regent Dave, I would add a couple of things. One is just what a great regent you are. Regent Manson talked about the fact that you've represented students well, you've been engaged with students. But as all student regents understand before very long, is you're a regent. You're a regent for NAU, U of A, and ASU. You're a regent for the state of Arizona. So that goes well beyond being a representative of students, and you've done that exceedingly well. I suppose one of my favorite conversations with you was after a very long board meeting one night. And you and Regent Rusk and I were in office together. And you just expressed such great joy in what you had learned of this board. And that great joy that you have in learning is something that I think has already served you very well.
Thank you, Regent Bentley.
Regent Mata. Thank you, Chair Manson. So Regent Dave, do you remember when I first came on board as a regent, and I never shared this with the rest of the region, I have a Zoom meeting with you, remember?
Yep.
And I was asking him for advice because I was completely new, although the first one was Regent Penley, before I even accepted, to be part of the board. But it was incredible because he shared all his experience and advice. He was advising me what to expect from the board.
Blind leading the blind.
Yeah, remember that? Yeah, it was incredible, and I'm gonna miss you. You are an amazing, person, and the success you're gonna have is incredible. And we expect that, 20 years later, 30 years later, you're gonna, we are gonna be gone, but you're gonna lead, our country and the world too. Thank you. Thank you for everything you have done for us.
Thank you, Regent Mata.
Sure. There's an old phrase that everything's been said, but not everybody has said it. I want to associate myself with these incredible comments. You are simply an extraordinary human being. And, I remember the first time you called me, usually a student regent says, we want to talk about tuition, or we want to talk about campus issues. And you did. You want to talk about the food insecurity and some other things. But then you said, but I want to talk to you about something bigger than that. How do we make the Phoenix Biomedical Plaza an international competitive leader in biohealth? And I thought, you don't get that from the student regent very often. And what has become clear in the course of the year is that's the level you're capable of leading. You are, the thing I hope more than anything else is that we get you back. Because your ability to help us lead this state of Arizona is unlimited. Your gifts are unlimited, and you've improved our lives and this board by your being here for the last 2 years. And we will watch your success with enormous pride and gratitude.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, I'm going to move on. President Cruz Rivera.
Sure.
You're first.
Thank you. I want to echo all of the praise for Regent Dave. I've been involved in higher ed for a long time with a lot of system offices. So I've worked with student regents, student trustees, and syndicals estudiantiles. And I will say that you're right there at the top. Just the way you carry yourself, the way that you address the issues. I won't repeat all of the contributions that you have made, but clearly the breadth of your work and the depth of your work will be forever a part of this great tri-university system. I will say that the first time I met you, I don't know if you remember this, was, I think it was around February of 2021, when the COVID pandemic was still pretty complicated, and I was asked to come to Phoenix for a dinner with a subset of the regents as part of the search process. And so it's a long trip from Puerto Rico to come all the way for that dinner. And so, you're a presidential candidate and you think people are going to be paying attention to you when you walk in the door. But it seems that the regents were mostly paying attention to themselves and to Dave because they had not seen each other for a very long time. It had been the first time they had actually seen some of them have met each other in person, right? Not in Zoom. But he was, I think, next to me or right next to me, right? And even in that short interaction during the dinner interview, it was clear that he's special and will go far in life. Very excited to see what's next for you and the great things you accomplish. And we do have a gift on behalf of NAU. It's a one-of-a-kind gift. It can only be manufactured in one specific kiln in Arizona, actually in the world. So I will hand this over to you and congratulations.
Thank you, President Cruz Rivera.
President Robbins.
Well, Regent Dave, thank you for all your service and your wisdom that you've brought to this board. And I agree with Chair Manson that you bring a unique perspective. I'll have to say that I am personally take responsibility for failing the University of Arizona not to have recruited you when we first met, when you were a Flint Scholar. I couldn't quite pry you away from President Crow because you already had your lab and all the things. No matter how much I tried in convincing you that we were on the forefront of Alzheimer's research at the University of Arizona. So I followed your career closely and was really excited when you became a regent. And you know, I agree with everyone else. I can't wait to see what great things you're going to accomplish through your entrepreneurial and innovative spirit that you have. And I just hope you will hire me in one of your companies since my honeymoon has already run out long ago. So I'm going to come around and give you a very unique gift that only a few people have, former regents. So you know what that is. But when you have it in your office and Governor Pritzker comes in, or Michael Jordan, or whoever comes in your office, you can talk about this piece of glass that you have and enlighten them about what's out in our universe. So I'll come by and give you this piece of glass from the Mirror Lab.
Thank you, President Robbins.
It's maybe the first time that I don't turn it in.
Yeah. Okay.
Just try getting that in the car without.
Drive safely.
It's good to meet you.
So Regent Dave and Nikhil, you know, you and I have known each other for a long time. You've been a student in my class. You're one of the 1,000 students or so that have taken my class in the last 30 years at either Columbia University or here. About 5 of those 1,000 are polymathic, which you are also. You and I talked about this before, that you synthesize subjects and you connect and link things in really unique ways, but you're the only one of those 5 that's not a jerk. So PG version. The students that I've had, I have more than one that's been a minister of their country's science and technology agency. I've got several flag officers that were my students over the last, they grew to be generals or admirals. And so your ability, as I'm not going to repeat what everyone says, is at that level, but you are also fundamentally unique for the following reason. That is that in all the conversations that I've had with you, of all the things that you're doing, going to do, where you're going, and I did speak to your roommate in Chicago coming up just a couple days ago, make sure that he was ready for you. And so you're very focused also on your family, your mother. And so you're a person very rare among individuals at your ability level who's focused on the totality of your life. So I just want to say that it's inspirational to watch you, to have had you as a student, to have worked with you. And we have fantastic prizes for you.
Right. Really is Christmas.
Yes. One, you spoke brilliantly at graduation not too long ago. We have an entire photographic book album of that event, including you on the cover. So that's one item. You are a very snazzy dresser. And so we have things for you to contribute to your snazziness. A number of ASU items.
Which you will be expected to wear in Chicago.
Absolutely. ASU ties. Other things that are very snazzy. So these are snazzy. And Christine has another special prize, as noted by Regent Herbold. Your dietary your dietary habits. We have estimated that in the 2 years on the board, you have eaten 92 ASU cookies.
quite the underestimate.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, presidents, and to the regents. Prepared a couple quick remarks, so I'll be brief. When I first came to ASU, I was really fortunate to receive the Flint Scholarship. And the mission of this investment is to provide funding for students who are from Arizona to improve the quality of lives of current and future Arizonans. And for a lot of students, it's a great scholarship with a lot of money. But for me, I really viewed it as a challenge. And because of that, serving on this board has been one of the most fulfilling things that I've had the opportunity to do in my life thus far. Arizona is not only my home, but it's also home to my immigrant parents, both who have now lived longer here than their home country in India. And the state has always welcomed them and me with open arms. And it's been a tremendous opportunity and a tremendous honor to give back in this capacity. So with that, I'd like to thank a few people. First is Governor Ducey and ASU student leadership for trusting me with this position. Additionally, joining a board filled with so many accomplished people at 19 years old is no easy feat. It can be pretty intimidating at times, especially in the beginning. And there's quite a bit to learn in a very short time frame. And so I'd also like to thank the Arizona Board of Regents staff and the university staff for the vast amount of work that they have done to support me, catch me up to speed, get me ready to go as soon as I started in the position. Perhaps most importantly, I'd like to thank the regents, both current and former, as well as the university presidents again, not only for the amount of tireless work that you do to improve the lives of young Arizonans and of the students in our universities, but also for all that you've taught me working alongside you. And finally, I'd be remiss not to thank my friends in college that have turned into family. And of course, my parents as well, for all the support they have given me during my time on the board. So while it feels bittersweet for sure to graduate, to conclude my term, I am incredibly optimistic knowing that the student regent position is in such great hands with Caitlin and Rachel. And as I said before, Arizona is and will always be my home. And while I'm excited to move and experience life outside of the desert for some time, I know that this is not a goodbye to Arizona or to the Board of Regents or to our universities, but rather a see you soon. So thank you all for everything.
On that note, one more item, we will miss you. So Kate, I'm sorry that you have to follow that. But the final item on our agenda is the report from the Arizona Faculty Council from Professor Kate Ellis.
Thank you and congratulations. We would like to begin by expressing our gratitude for Mark Denke's ongoing guidance and sage counsel over the course of the past year. He was very effective at helping the members of the AFC represent the state's faculty to the board regarding both our concerns and perspective. His guidance helped us to temper our passion into diplomacy so that you heard us. We look forward to continuing to work with him next year. And on a personal note, I am very thankful for his assistance when I stepped into this role last fall, as I was completely unprepared to take on the responsibilities of serving as the AFC chair. We are also very grateful to the board for the clear evidence over the course of this year that you have carefully listened to what the AFC has said and responded to our questions, concerns, and ideas. The board has demonstrated that you value and respect the faculty's perspective, and we look forward to our continued engagement with all of you next year. As you consider the budgets for the 3 universities and your office, we know that you continue to work with the legislature toward the goal of increasing state funding for higher education in Arizona. As the state constitution says in Article 11, Section 6, that education at the three state universities should be, quote, nearly as free as possible, end quote. We want to assist you in your ongoing efforts to increase funding for higher education. We are proud of the work the universities and faculty are doing in the Teachers Academy and with the new economy initiatives in health, engineering, and astronomy. In this time of increasing inflation, however, these specialty programs may not help a student or their family negotiate all of the costs of tuition, books and fees, and housing. And the reality that higher education in Arizona is far from free. The basic costs of maintaining the university's education and research missions continue to require state support, and we are committed to working with you in your ongoing efforts to secure increased funding for higher education. We are very concerned by Senate Bill 1412 and similar efforts from state legislatures across the country. Such bills have a chilling effect on a teacher's ability to instruct their students. And while this bill is targeted primarily at K-12 instruction, we can anticipate this type of legislation being directed specifically at universities and challenging the academic freedom and responsibility the board seeks to ensure in ABOR Policy 6-202. We strongly encourage you to oppose future legislation of this type and to continue to protect the freedom of expression for all members of Arizona's university and K-12 communities. We would like to propose that next year, the Academic Affairs and Educational Attainment Committee, along with the provosts and senates at all three universities, work together to create an inclusive title for faculty who serve in roles other than tenure track. Such a title should describe what these faculty are: lecturers, professors of practice, clinical faculty, research faculty, faculty on a continuing status, and now teaching faculty, rather than what they are not, NTT or non-tenure track faculty. The title NTT has a long-standing tradition in higher education and is embedded in ABOR and the university's cost documents. Referring to a faculty member as non-tenure track, however, is inherently negative and emphasizes a second-class status of these highly productive faculty who now make up 50% or more of the faculty at all of Arizona's universities. They are not only teachers, they are scholars, researchers, creative artists, clinicians, and professionals. They contribute significantly to the stature of their institutions and to the quality of higher education in Arizona. These faculty who are not protected by tenure are vulnerable, and this would be a meaningful expression of their value to our institutions. Identifying and adopting a positive, inclusive title, which will work for the varied faculty tracks at the three state universities in Arizona. And when we discussed this, we tried to come up with something, and it's challenging. And updating all cost documents with this title would be an important step in our ongoing efforts to demonstrate our commitment to these faculty. Finally, given the board's interest in a more robust matrix and goals for online education, we would like to propose for the faculty breakfast with the board next year, which we hope to see again, a discussion with the faculty who are both teaching, creating effective online education and addressing the challenges in this educational modality, as well as your vision for these programs in Arizona. We believe this would be a productive conversation and contribute to the creation of the ABOR online education matrix. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Alice. Appreciate it. It's been a pleasure working with you this year, so thank you.
Thank you.
This concludes today's agenda. I have one announcement I would like, actually multiple announcements, but one that is really related to our business. Today there was an announcement that ASU has achieved HSI status as per the definition of the Department of Education. So I first of all wanted to congratulate ASU on that. Well done. I think it is also pertinent to mention that in a state where our largest growth demographic is Hispanic, the fact that we now have all three of our state universities with green fire ratings and HSI designations is a big deal. We are the only one in the country that has that. And so I'd like to congratulate all three of our universities on their achievements in both of those arenas. Those are big deals.
I appreciate that relative to ASU. I might just add, Nancy Provost Gonzalez, what was our number of Hispanic students? It's 30,000 what? Total?
The percent is 20.
No, but the number of students in your note. No, it was more than 30,000. Right, so Kent, what is it?
30,000.
30,000, so the number, so it took us a long time to get there because we've been growing so rapidly and expanding so rapidly, but we have more than 30,000 students of Hispanic heritage in the institution, so it's a fantastic turnaround for the university from its non-inclusive past.
So kudos to all three of our institutions and particularly to ASU for achieving that at the magnitude of which they have. Just logistics announcements before we adjourn. We have shuttles that are going to be available for those who are attending the reception at NAU's Student Athlete High Performance Center. And as a reminder for the regents, the special board meeting board retreat is scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning in the 1899 ballroom, so across the street, not in this building. And again, would like to thank President Cruz Rivera and his staff, Director Arnold and the board staff for all of their work on this meeting. I think it went off incredibly well without a hitch. And at this point, the board is now adjourned.